All right, Matt Davio back again here with Quint Tatro. Quint, you've got a new book out, Trade the Trader, and I've been telling a lot of people about it, and the types of books that I like as a trader myself are not those that tell me how to trade, but rather get into the biggest question in anybody's success with trading is how do you manage the person in the mirror? So, Quint, thanks again for coming on today. Looks like you're back at the home office in Kentucky.
I am, and believe it or not, and I don't think I've ever done this, but I am going to put a trade on right here as we speak, only because a name that I've been waiting for to pop up has now done so. So just give me 2 seconds there.
Well, good. This is, you and I are, it's funny. We talked about we did this on Friday after Thanksgiving, and my computer didn't record well, so we're doing it over here today. But, it's interesting. We've been in a funny market right now. We've been in this market that's playing this ping pong from 1170 to 1205 now for almost 3 weeks. And here we are again at 12:03 high this morning. So I'm kind of sitting on my hands. Gold's rolling over here. I've been short some gold and just kind of enjoying that ride. Gold ran up to 1398 again overnight. Now it's 1383. So I'm on the right side of that trade. I don't see much going on. I don't like markets that are gapped up like this with no news. So there's not much for me to do here.
Well, that's, I think that it dovetails very appropriately into the discussion on the book, because as a person like yourself, regardless of my opinion, what you just relayed there is your strategy, your methodology. You're not sitting there in angst going, I need to do something. I need to, the market's up, 20 handles. And that's that's a majority of the point of the book, and is so imperative for people to really not just find out who they are and find a strategy that really works with them and molds well with their personality, but to stick with it. To literally, stick with that. The different worlds. You're a successful trader. I've had some success in trading myself. The two different worlds are, today, I'm as long today as I ever have been all year. And the irony is I wrote out this morning that, for my style and the trades that I play, the setups have just continued to be there, and I've had no real confirmation from the general market. Just like you said, we've chopped around. I'm not a general market trader. I know you focus, if I understand your style correctly, you focus primarily on the ES, whereas I look for these, I shouldn't say that. I know you spread the gamut. And trade, what is across the myriad of opportunities. I'm primarily a swing trader in individual equities, and there has been just all of these trades setting up, and it's really been conflicting because I've seen more and more trades setting up telling, okay, Quint, this is what you wait for. Take the trade. Quantify your risk, put it on the sheets, and meanwhile, I've gotten no confirmation from the market. I feel like an idiot because up until today, nothing really has gone, and now all of a sudden, it says, hey, guess what? The style that I've adhered to is now working, and again, doesn't make right or wrong indifferent. It just summarizes that what you do, whatever style you adhere to, that's who you become. It's like your personality. You can't all of a sudden, walk in to some political, arena and say, oh, well, because I'm at this cocktail party, I'm going to be Democrat, or because I'm at this cocktail party, I'm going to be Republican. I guess you could, but it'd be pretty phony, and you probably wouldn't be very successful at it. So, the whole concept of the book is to take what I've gone through over the last 10 years and really put it into a context of saying, hey, this is how I became who I am at this moment, and the path that maybe one can follow to find out who they are and find some success in this crazy business that we play every day.
Yeah, and let's talk about that a little bit, because I agree with you, and it's interesting. I primarily learned this business in the early 90s as a swing trader, because we had such big, wide moves really from 93 till 2002. So I learned to trade, I guess, due to the function. And then when I came into the market, there was a lot of things going on. We were transitioning from all call-in brokers to direct entry on a computer. That happened while, during that time frame that I just said to you. So I had to kind of learn, I used to call in all my orders, and then I went from calling in 90% of my orders to, putting them all online and making fat finger trades and making errors, which I still make and I still continue to make. And if you don't think that's slippage in part of the business, then you're not checking in for real, because it does happen. But how did you, so I kind of learned more. I'm more wider and more, I prefer to trade smaller and wider myself, like you. Whether, especially on stocks. I always tell people, kind of in my book, if you don't have $1 million, you definitely shouldn't be day trading stocks. And if you want to day trade, there are better vehicles to day trade, and that's where the ES comes in if you really want that action, because it's liquid, there's a ton of players, and I can get in and out very easily with pretty good size. So how did Quint, look in the mirror and spend those years? Because
Sure.
The whole idea, I think, of your book and what I try to educate people is, how can I shorten your time frame to get you comfortable in your own skin? It's not how Matt trades. It's not how Quint trades. I can give you definitely multiple ways to make money, but you're going to massage and work those ways into your world. So how give us a little basis, a little background on how you got there. I think that's always, the best story for people.
Sure, and I think it's fascinating. I got one of the most humbling / rude, if you will, comments on a recent comment that I got, and I probably shouldn't even look at him anymore, but on Amazon for the book, and a guy, pretty much tore me apart and said, who am I to, believe that after X amount of years, which is relatively short, and I understand that, a 10-year time period is not a 40-year span.
Right.
Who am I to relay that I could write a book?
Yeah.
Well, my counter to that is that even if I save someone 2 years or a year for that matter, it's going to be well worth the $30 or buy it online for $20. I mean, that to me is nonsense.
Right.
But the fascinating thing is, I have inclination that that I know the person and that it's a dig from the past, which whatever, it is what it is,
right.
Which is unfortunate. But my history is fascinating because I really grew up in this business. My father is still in the business, has been in the business now for 40 plus years. He started as a broker in the 70s, and I can remember studying stocks and studying, what was going on in the market just because I had an interest from going into his office at the time and watching the ticker go across they had it all. Well, I think they probably still do, but they had it across the wall, and so forth. And then he had that Quotron thing on his desk and, all the things that you probably traded with back in the day, but, were all foreign to me. So, I got involved in the business from first and foremost as a broker from a financial advising background, actually, this sort of wealth management thing, and I had no interest in that whatsoever. So at a very early time period, really after my first year in the business, getting some clientele, pushing, garbage, mutual funds, just crap. I said, this is it. I can't do this. And I went out on my own. I became a rep. I hung out my shingle. I've always been quite entrepreneurial, and it was feast or famine. And luckily at the time, I was studying I was a value manager. That's all I learned. I studied Warren Buffett. I studied Graham Dodd, the Intelligent Investing book. I probably read it 5 times. I knew only valuation. And in 2001, I made it was a 2000 to 2001, I made a calculated bet, based on valuation that the market would come down and come down hard. And so this is 10 years ago. And so I went out and I talked to anybody that I could. And I said to them, they said, well, what's your view of the market here? And I said, you sell everything. You get the heck out. And a few people listened, and I built a business from that. What I came to realize, however, is 2002 in the bottom and 03 and 04 was that while I could, be a value manager, it wasn't in line with my personality, but I didn't know how to trade. And I had to seek out tutelage. I mean, I sought out James DePore, Rev Shark. He writes for Real Money, and he and I struck up a friendship, and for ended up working with him sort of virtually for a while, and then ultimately my wife and I moved to Florida, and I studied underneath him for 2 years, from 05 to 07, and I worked elbow to elbow and worked a lot, and worked very hard, and I transformed from sort of this value manager into a trader. After that was done, I spent 2 years with him, and in 07 I came back and reestablished my own firm and just again pushed forward. And through really the last couple of years, I've taken the bits and pieces that I've learned along the way and really started to formulate my own, my strategy. Who is Quint Tatro? And that's what the book is. If anything, it's a reference for me too. When I deviate, it's like getting your golf swing out of whack and having to go back to the original tape or, whatever, is to go back to my original book and say, okay, where am I deviating? What am I doing wrong? And I'm sure I'll find it in my own words, like someone keeping a journal. But I think also my evolution now is more along the lines of where I want to be. I'm in a business. We're growing. We're not huge. We manage, about $30 million. That's not gargantuous, but we're growing rapidly. We're bringing on new vehicles to manage money in ways that are very scalable for us to continue to grow. And so what I've been doing is really making sure that I can swing trade, get away from the ticks. Yep. I got over the last several years, really, because of the choppiness in the environment, I became a day trader. I mean, I could say I was a swing trader, but, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if I had some awesome profits, man, I was booking them. And I am trying now to really evolve and make sure that I stay in a swing trading mode. And more that, again, is for where I want to be as a professional. Sure. So that's, a little bit of my history and how I came to light. And, again, a lot of what's in the book for somebody to pick up and read for themselves.
Well, what I find interesting about what you just talked about, Quint, was you've kind of tested the waters. You day traded, you swing traded, you value traded, and like you said, I think especially if you go back 20 years, really there wasn't a lot of books on trading, and now there's too many books on trading. But where I think your book differentiates and is positive entirely to me as a trader is you're not saying here is a strategy. You're saying you really need to figure this out on your own. You need to figure out what your time commitment is, Mister. And you use I like your story about the dentist that you use in there who wants to be an active trader, but he's a dentist and. He can pick markets, but he can't sit in front of a screen all day. So if you can't sit in front of a screen, you can't day trade.
Right.
And if you don't have deep pockets like Warren Buffett, you can't value trade.
Right. Well, my desire is not to give someone their edge. There's too many out there, and it would be foolish for me to assume that my edge is better than the next guy, or that my edge is the only one. I see that so often that people who have an edge and it works for them have this strong desire to then either put down or discredit other edges, and edges meaning strategies, any strategy that gives you an edge. And the reason I say an edge is because many strategies don't necessarily give you an edge. People think they have a strategy, it doesn't necessarily give them an edge. Right. But I to say, oh, well, buy and hold, I see that all the time. And even I fell into that trap. Buy and hold doesn't work. Well, okay, how are you mean literally you're going to sit down with a Warren Buffett and look at a model like that and say it doesn't work? I mean, it's worked very well for him. It might not have worked over the last 10 years, but over his lifespan, it's not, it's worked extremely well. But as you said, whether it be money, patience, personality, most people don't have the resolve to buy a stock and hold it until it's fairly or overvalued. Whereas on the flip side, just like you said, most people then go to the other extreme and say, well, if I'm not a value manager, I need to be this trader. I need to be sitting in my office, I need to be making 50 trades a day, and just, getting crazy. That's what trading's about. blah, blah, blah. And you're like, whoa, hold on. Let's look at your time frame, look at what you have, an opportunity to actually do in your life or what you want to do. I mean, one of the best traders I know checks the market twice a day, and I love that. He comes in the morning, and sometimes he doesn't even bother. Now he's got his handheld. He could be out on the golf course. He could be out. He likes to hunt. He could be out in the field, check in, nothing really to be done, and he goes on, and he kills it. And so, in turn, one of the things, that's what I would like to do. I would like to become a person who gets away from the screens more and more and more. And, that's something that I'm aspiring to do.
Yeah, and I think that's a wonderful aspiration. And the way I've always traded stocks is much like your want is or your buddy is. I mean, I don't, for stocks, there's too many things sector-wise, individually-wise, market-wise that drive them. And I think if you're going to trade stocks, a swing-type position, meaning at least 2 weeks, and 2 weeks isn't long, but it can be if you're taking profits. Or if your risk has been hit, you're out. But what I like about swing trading is I'm very good at saying, this is most likely a bottom in this area, or this is most likely a top in this area. That's where I'm good. Perfect entry? Absolutely not. But I can give you nice ranges, and I can play that with options. I can play that with actual stock, long, short. I don't care. I'm a very good technician, and I have no problem putting on trades and doing just what you said when it comes to leaving them. What I want to ask you about is how did you or how do other people get over what I think is one of the biggest problems is, the man in the mirror. How do you displace cognitive dissonance and follow your program, follow your risk parameters? How do you do that, whether you made money or lost money yesterday? How do you put that behind and go today?
It's first of all, as you know, it's a never-ending process. And before I answer that, though, I want to follow up to what you said, and not to give you a bigger head or a big head, because I think you're very humble. But if you remember our first interview when we were talking about peanut butter, you are the only one of the beings out there that I know that I was actually looking at going long the euro. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, obviously I'm not a man over your shoulder, but you just killed that trade, and you waited patiently and you took it. And I remember you saying that in that thing, because my initial reaction was, as a pure technician, I was like, gosh, that's crazy. I wouldn't touch it. Of course, 2 weeks later, it lined up and had the bottom and it soared. But you're spot on, and you know yourself well, and I think that's fantastic. It's not arrogance to speak of that. You're just confident, and it does dovetail into my answer to your question in that number one, it's a long process that never ends. You're constantly, if you don't repeatedly think you're an idiot in this business at times, you're not doing it right. There's times you're just like, gosh, what a moron. Whether you miss a trade, whether you lose a trade, and it's human emotion. I wrote again this morning, I would love to say that last night going home, as long as I've been all year long, that I slept like a baby and it was fine. If I lose, I know what my risk is and it's okay. Yeah, that's a bunch of bull crap. At 4:30 when my 10-month-old made a peep, I was up, and before I went to his crib, I'm checking the futures to see what's going on in the market. We're human beings. So it's an ongoing process. Maybe when I have a house in the south of France, I got the NetJets card, many millions of dollars tied up in municipal bonds, I won't even care. Hopefully they're not Illinois bonds or something like that. But, maybe at that point, I really care about risk. But come on, we're human. So it's a never-ending process. But here's where it gets easier. When you go through P&L success, and I'll explain why I quantify that. You know why I quantify that, but I'll explain to our viewers why I quantify that. P&L success to failure to success again. If you ride your own trend, following your style, you then become confident in that trend, and next time you dip, it's much easier to stay true to yourself. It's like a relationship with your spouse. You're married. I don't know how long you've been married, but you're married. After a while, you're like, we get in an argument, but we're not like walking out the door. Right. It's not ending. And unfortunately, that's what most people do in America, right? They get into a fight in the first year, and they're like, shouldn't have gotten married. We need to have a divorce and whatever. And what they don't understand is that's what makes them stronger, is going through those time periods, having those arguments, then repairing it, and that's what makes a relationship stronger. It's the same thing in trading.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I quantified P&L success is, in my opinion, and probably yours and most others, success in trading is not in your P&L. If you execute your strategy, which gives you an edge, you ultimately should have success in your P&L over time. But that only comes by having experience and riding those up and downs. I'll never forget when I was developing, a few years ago and sort of going out of this manic trading method, I could trade all day long and make money but I got to zero in. I can't, my wife calls to have lunch. I'm like, no, I can't. I got this trade for 20 cents. I'm trying to capitalize on it. It wouldn't work.
Right.
And I said, gosh, I really have to get to a point where I'm swing trading and I'm not watching every tick.
Yeah.
And my friend said to me, it's very simple. He said, you got to lose, then you got to win. And if you lose and win, then you will be confident in that style. So that's how it's time, it's patience, but but if somebody thinks that it goes away, no way, never
Right.
goes away. Or at least I haven't met anybody that it does go away for.
And I just love this point because, this is a life lesson to me, that I always try to, my kids are all 7 to 13. They're all playing different levels of sports. And, I don't know about your kids in Kentucky, but there's so much of this. Everybody's a winner stuff right now, and it's top down in this country. And it drives me bananas because we learn, just from what you just said, we learn, and I'm such a fond believer of this mantra, you learn from your mistakes more than you do your success.
Definitely.
You have to fail, and by fail doesn't mean necessarily, strike out swinging for a home run. It just means, hey, it was a bad trade. And I make bad trades every week. Sometimes every day I'll make a trade. But I can make bad trades and still make money in a day if I follow my principles and if I follow my rules. And I can not make a trade, and that's a bad trade. And you got to get over that too. Again, that's that cognitive dissonance. Did I make a bad trade? Did I do it again and again and again? Then that's a problem. But did I make a bad trade, or did the trade just go bad? That's fine. Then I always tell people, if I take the trade that I saw on my setup and I lost, no big deal. That is exactly what you're talking about, though, Quint. That as a trader, you have to sit there and say, good, next trade, I'm going to take it again because I would take that trade again. And if you can do that and be honest with yourself, again, that man in the mirror, did I do what I set out to do? Did I achieve that? That is successful trading to me. And that's exactly what you really get into in this book. That is, can you be good in your slop as you can in your success? Because there's a lot of slop in this business. There's a lot of slop. So, that's the thing. And you talk about risk. Again, I love people talking about risk control, setting your stops. That's important. But how do you feel and how do you deal with that emotion when you're losing and you're in your slop? So talk to me a little bit more about that. How, like you said, it never goes away. How do you not get seated and come back tomorrow?
Sure. I think it's experience. If someone can't, if you're starting in this business and you are, as you're exploring, your strategy or your edge or whatever, to believe that you've arrived or you have this, okay, this is it and this is what I'm going to do. And if you've not gone through this exploratory phase, then you can't really say that. I think you have to say, okay, I'm exploring, I'm trying to find a strategy. And so with that, you have to start very, very small to the point where if you go through a run where it's bad, you're able to stick with it. Most people strategy hop. I talk about that in the book that it's not that the strategy isn't working. It's that they're in it during a time period where it's just going through a natural draw or a natural retracement. Markets change, markets evolve. Trend traders, they'll tell you, they chop around for 5 to 6 months, sometimes even more, until they catch a trend. And then in that very short period of time, like trend traders I know made their year in September and October. That was it. They chopped around until then, they killed it, and now they're chopping around again, and they're probably done.
Right.
So if you were trying to trend trade when the market's bouncing around in June and July, you're going, oh, I'm not getting a trend. I need to go on to day trading. And then, you start day trading and the market starts to trend and you go, oh my gosh, I'm only making a little bit and this trend, I should have gone back to this trend. And so you can just go crazy over that. So it's finding a strategy, again, that you know works and not just hoping it works, but you know it works. And then, again, you've got to go through the cycles. You have to go through the cycles to know that it's right for you. It fits your personality. I have a very good friend who was married a couple of years ago, and what I loved is he would date women, and before he made any decision about, and it finally came to the one he married, but he would say, I got to date through the seasons. Because he wanted to go through all the seasons to see how the relationship would act, for him to know whether this was going to be the one. And I knew him for years, since college, so he would date a girl, he'd go a year, and like a year to the day, he'd be like, this isn't working out, we need to just move on. And it was because, February of Valentine's Day, she expected, to be wined and dined, and he wanted to have a pizza in front of the television or something like that. So it's, again, you gotta trade through the cycles, and once you trade through the cycles and you become confident in that, then you will be able to increase your risk. And making more money is not about, doing different things in your strategy, or at least my opinion, or, finding better stocks. It's just simply about increasing your risk for an existing strategy that already works. That's what I try to do. As my capital base grows, I have to increase my risk. Right. And if I want to make more money, I got to continue to increase that risk.
Well, I'm kind of the belief that my strategy can work day trading or it can work swing trading. And if I can commit to being around in front of a screen for a day, I'll do it. But I don't stress about it if I can't. And on a swing trade, that's the way I kind of break up my accounts. I can trade the same strategy I do on a day trade on a swing trade. And I can tell you that, because I've been doing it now for 20 years, that I use the same items on a weekly, monthly, daily chart as I do a 5-minute chart. So I can tell you that's how I try. I have found strategies, and I can make money in a trending market, a non-trending market, trending up, trending down. And if you can do that, and your strategies, and there's more than one, fits into all those, because there's multiple ways to make money in this game, and it is just a game, and you are good with giving up your pawn to get the rook, then you're going to make money in this business. That's all it is. It's not a absolute win every time business. And anybody who tells you there's a holy grail, it's not hard work, it's a boring business, I agree with you. If you do it well, you're sitting on your hands. Sitting on your hands, as I told you before we came on today, that's what I'm doing right now. I didn't come in as a day trader or a swing trader long the ES. I have not taken an ES trade today. And you know what? I'm glad, because we have not moved. We basically opened, we opened at 11.95, went to 12.02, and we've been at 11.99 now for just about an hour. And Quint, I've missed nothing. I've missed no opportunities, and I can recognize that because I've done it for so long. And I will tell my students, sit on your hands. You don't need to be in a trade. That is a trade.
Right.
So
that's so true. I mean, and I tell you, even a year ago, maybe even 6 months ago, I would never have been able to even do an interview like this, because whether I traded or not, I would have felt like, oh my gosh, I gotta be on alert for, this opportunity. I mean, a stock that I've been watching for a long time, at the beginning of the show, an alert went off, and, you take the trade, I already know how many shares I'm going to take, the risk I'm going to take, and that's one. That was just a rare occurrence. But I'm getting better. My goal is to really be where you are, and be able just to say, you know what, and I'm getting better, and I'm not perfect, but I'm getting there.
Well, you never are perfect, and I'm not. Nobody is in this business or any business. So, I think that's the humbling thing, and the humbling part about it again is you have to lay all the, you're really laying your sword down, in this business. It is so unforgiving, but it is so rewarding also if you're patient and you just don't forget to breathe, as I always tell my kids in any endeavor. Don't forget to breathe, because
right.
Holding your breath isn't going to help anybody.
That's right, my friend.
Well, Quint, I appreciate it again. Trade the Trader. I highly recommend the book. It's right up there again. I mentioned to you earlier with my Mark Douglas type books, where you want to read about psychology, and preparation. This game is all again about preparation, and you've written a really nice tome on how to prepare and put your mind in the right place to get into this business.
Thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate it, and again, I appreciate your willingness to bring me on the show here. I got to ask you, what do you got? UFOs flying around out your window there? What is all that dinging I keep hearing?
I got different programs alerting me just as any trader does. So
I keep thinking somebody's going to come down and abduct you pretty soon, and we're never going to see you again.
It's funny. You talk about people making comments about your book, and part of you and I putting ourselves out here every day is you get all these, as I call them, piker trash out there in the in the internet world who love to just slam on anything that's disagreeing with what they say. But I put it out there, and I get the same types. If somebody hears a sound in this interview, I will hear complaints about it, just as it's bothering you, and I apologize.
No, it's not at all. I was curious if it was an alert, if it was I didn't know what it was. So I'm just humoring. I figured it was something to do with the screens or the trades or so forth. So, and no worries at all.
All right. So
there's a lot of pipe out there, aren't there?
Let me ask you, what trade is it that you have it? Here we are on December 1st. What stock were you buying today?
Yeah, well, this let me quantify ahead of time that it's very thinly traded. It's this Shenare Energy, ticker symbol LNG, and this is a ridiculous sort of momentum trade, and that sort of yesterday's drop bar there. I've been waiting for a pretty ugly bar to come into this to get me into the trade, and yesterday's was, I don't think it wasn't terrible, but it was ugly enough. So a move above that bar is the level that I want to get in, and my stop actually is a buck away. My stop is 5, so it's a very, very large stop.
I'm looking at a chart here, daily chart. Did you buy it right around 560, 550?
No, actually, I wanted to get day high. Actually, I'm down 5 cents in it. I wanted to get 6 on the radar, so I got so 6. I'm again, I'm sort of a momentum guy.
I like that type of chart for a pullback buy. Absolutely, I agree.
Sure. So we'll see. That's what that's what's been working for me in this environment lately. Is some of these high flyers, especially in the commodity space, that have had these sort of death bars and knock everybody out, and then it's game on. So that's the strategy that's been working for me here. This one is not yet working, but we'll see what happens.
Give it time, like you said. It's not a day trade, Quint. It's not a day trade.
That's right. Exactly.
All right, Quint. Again, Trade the Trader, guys. Go out and get this book. Again, I feel very strongly. I love the psychology books, and you did a great job with. I think in the preparation of wannabe traders, students, and even people with experience like me. I got a lot out of it. Great book.
Well, thank you, sir. Always a pleasure. We'll talk soon.
Okay.